Robert Halfon, this Thursday, 10 years ago. Tell us about this Thursday, 10 years ago.
Well, it was quite an extraordinary moment in my life. 10 actually is a very important number because it was at 10 years old I decided I wanted to be an MP. I went to the House of Commons on a tour. And because an MP had come to my school and said that the House of Commons had 1,000 rooms, Parliament had 1,000 rooms, I didn't believe it. I demanded to go, went on a school tour, and literally decided at the age of 10 that I would be an MP. And it took me 30 years. I had wanted to do it before I was 40, but sadly Gordon Brown delayed the election. So we had it in 2010. So it was a very special moment in my life. And I don't come from a political family. And I just remember going into the chamber, sitting there, finding it hard to believe that my childhood dream had actually happened, and it was real.
And just let's go back a little bit. How did the selection for Harlow come about?
Well, it was very hard. You have to do a kind of Dragon's Den stroke apprentice type interviews. So I applied for Harlow. I wasn't from Harlow. I was brought up in North London, but my family had a shop in Harlow for many years, John Walton's shop, that sadly closed in the 80s. And you had to go for an interview, first of all, in front of the executive of the Harlow Conservatives. Lots of other MPs applied. In fact, one of them was James Brockenshire, who is now a Minister for Security and an MP in Bexley Heath. In South London, Bexley and Sidcup, I think it is, South London. And then then I was through to the next round, which was a wider group of members. And then the final round was all the members of the local party. And also you had to do a speech. You also had to do a question time session with the other candidates. So it was pretty tough at the time. And I remember the second round being very late at night, and the interview was at the Women's Institute in Old Harlow, in the building there. And I stayed the night in the Premier Inn opposite the in Old Harlow, the one River Mill.
Yeah, Harlow Mill.
Harlow Mill. So I stayed there overnight because I had quite a late interview.
But just remind us what year this is now we're talking about.
Oh, well, this is 2000. Sorry, this is 1999. November 1999. So a long time. And then I moved to Roydon in January. That's when I first. Roydon is a very important part of the constituency. It's a beautiful village. I moved there originally, and it was a bit later actually. I first of all stayed in lodgings in Old Harlow, and then I moved to Roydon in that year, in 2000, early 2000. Rented a small flat.
And the 2001 campaign, again, we'll go over these quite quickly, but 2001 campaign, did you feel how satisfied? I know you lost, but did you feel? I could edge closer here to Bill Rammell and Labour.
Well, it was pretty grim. At the beginning, it was very grim for the Conservatives because we'd been in power for a very long time and the public were mightily fed up with us. And I remember doing stalls, which I'm still doing to this day. As you know, Mike, you come and interviewed me, those same stalls all the way back in early 2000, and people just wanting to kick over the stand, and they were just so fed up. So it was a very tough election. The Conservative Association was much smaller. We had meetings in a pub. We didn't have an office. We only had a few members at the time. And I remember we had some speaker meetings in the Harlow Club pub. You know that pub.
Yes.
It was volunteers made sandwiches for the members who came. So it's another world to think of how things have been transformed since that time. But having said that, we had very little money at the time, and yet had an incredible result. I think it was, from memory, that was a 6.5% swing in that year. Mm-hmm. You might check it. It was one of the best in the country, and I wasn't expecting to win in 2001, but I certainly wasn't expecting to cut the majority by half, because to credit Bill Rammell, he was a very, very good Member of Parliament and deeply passionate about Harlow, so I knew he was going to be tough to meet, and I remember particularly Tony Blair coming down to the Latin Bush Centre. And actually, just was a funny thing because I had a battle van. As you know, I've got problems with my legs. So I've got a blue label disabled parking pass. And we put it in the van and parked it. And so the Tony Blair coach, wasn't able to park because we were legitimately parked in the disabled bay. And Alistair Campbell was there, and it was another world at the time, and incredible times. I won't forget them. It seems like yesterday. I still remember them vividly.
2005. If we cut to the result, you lost by how many?
97 votes.
97 votes. 3 recounts?
3 recounts. It was a terrible day because I'm a Chelsea supporter. I know that's not so popular in Harlow because most people support Tottenham. But my granddad took me when I was a child, and I had planned that whether win or lose, I was going to go and watch the final game because it was the year in 2005, the day that we won the league. And what happened was, not only did I lose by 97 votes, but the count was postponed on the Friday and then started up again on the Saturday. So the third recount, or the fourth. So what that meant was I couldn't even go to Chelsea, and I had tickets to go that day. It was pretty grim, and there was a picture of me looking very miserable. But I did go to the pub afterwards and had a nice lunch with a friend of mine after the count on the Saturday. But it took a few days to sink in how so near but so far.
Did you think of quitting?
Only for a short time. I went swimming and had a break, and I decided I was so close. I wanted to do it again because I love Harlow. Harlow's become my home from the year 2000. It's a very special place, and I thought I wasn't going to go and look for a safe seat, which I could have done because people were ringing me from the parties, the Conservative Party, saying, "Oh, you've done very well, apply for so-called safe seats where there are Tory majorities of 20,000 or whatever." And I thought, no, I've made my home here, I want to stay, I'm going to do it again. And you just have to grin and bear it. You can either be miserable or you pick yourself up, dust yourself down and start all over again. And that's what I did after a swim or two.
2010, did you get a sense this is my, at any stage, April or in April of 2010, this is my real chance now?
Well, I absolutely believed that I was going to win, but there was always a massive nagging doubt, particularly because of what had happened, losing by 97 votes. I felt that the country was fed up with Labour and Gordon Brown in the same way they were fed up with the Tories in my party in 1997. Having said that, my worry was because Bill was such a good MP, he would have gone against the national trend and people would still vote for him because of the work that he had done for Harlow, which was considerable. And but I felt in my heart, in my bones, that I was going to win. I didn't know it was going to be, at that time, I think it was just over 4,000 votes odd. And it was a very special moment. But it was a tough campaign, very, very tough, because you just didn't know what was going to happen. And
so you win. Your first day, so the first day up in the House of Commons as Robert Halfon MP, looking back on the 10-year-old boy who went up to the House of Commons.
It was very strange because I had worked for MPs doing all kinds of jobs all through my 20s and some of my 30s. And there was a special room in the House of Commons called the Pugin Room where you go and have a tea. It's like posh tea or whatever. And you overlook the terrace. It's really beautiful room, and I had often been taken there by MPs, and I was supposed to meet someone there, and I went in there forgetting that I was the MP, thinking, oh, who's the MP turning up subconsciously, and it was really, really, really strange. And there was another place in the House of Commons called the Tea Room, which is much where I go all the time, which is basically a egg and chips cafe for MPs, but it's MP only. And it is extraordinary because it's opposite the House of Commons Library. It's a long corridor. And what I was shocked to find out was that the Labour people sit in one end of the room and the Conservatives sit on another. And even the Liberals have their own table. The Scottish National Party have their own tables. So even you fight against each other, but you even in having meals, you sit separately. It's and I was shocked to find that. But that is the place where everything goes on, where you pick up all the gossip, you find out who's plotting against whom or what the government are doing. Ministers go in there. You might one minute be sitting next to Michael Gove, the next minute be sitting next to my neighbouring MP Eleanor Lang or Charles Walker. It's and the food's great, but it's not good if you want to be on a diet. Because all cheese toasties, eggs, chips, they have some hot food, but it's usually not very healthy, but delicious.
Maiden speech. What was the subject?
My maiden speech was on my favourite area of policy, which is education, and I spoke about apprenticeships. And I spoke about the fact that not enough is done in schools to talk about apprenticeships. And I decided that I would make education and skills and apprenticeships the number one area that I focused on. And that's why, having been an education minister for skills and now chair of the Education Select Committee, which is an elected position, is a wonderful job and special thing to me, because I care very deeply that education skills provides a ladder of opportunity for young people and can transform their lives, and that's why I made it my number one area.
And so in the 10 years as MP for Harlow, what would you say has been your greatest achievement?
Well, I think I was very proud that I campaigned to get a fuel duty freeze that saved drivers hundreds, if not over thousands of pounds over the last 10 years a year, because campaigning relentlessly, and I was recognised by the Chancellor, and I received a number of awards for it as well, and still to this day they haven't put up fuel duty. I've campaigned every single year as MP and recognised as having done that, and that has had a huge impact on the cost of living, cutting the cost of living for ordinary folk, residents, motorists, small businesses in Harlow. The other thing that, because of Public Health England, the hundreds of millions for that, the fact that we're going to get a new hospital from the government, that took a lot of campaigning. The extra junction for the M11, people have been campaigning for it for years, and we finally got it. I just campaigned relentlessly in the House of Commons, annoying ministers, getting them to come to Harlow, just nagging, and campaigning to try and get money for our town. I think we've had roughly £1 billion come in over the years. There's so many incredible things happen. There's a lot of issues, problems, but there's so many good things, and I'm very proud of those things that we've been able to do.
On the flip side, what's been your greatest frustrations?
I think the greatest frustration is the regeneration of Harlow and antisocial behaviour and the Terminus House problem. I think there are so many incredible things happening in Harlow, and yet for some reason we can't get that right, whether it's local or national. I'm not blaming anyone for this. We're all responsible for it, all of us, local politicians, national politicians. The antisocial behaviour in the town centre, the fact that for some reason it's taking so long to regenerate the north side of the town. South side, water gardens, everywhere from the Vodafone shop onwards looks really nice now, but the Harvey Centre is excellent. There's not a better place in the country to go and buy Christmas presents, especially if you need to do it quickly. But the north side is appalling, and we all need to work together. I'm trying to do things with the Labour leader of the council. We have differences, but we have seen the ministers about this, and we have to regenerate the town centre, deal with the Terminus House issue, and make our town, that part of the town, a special place, a lovely place for people to come to. But the answer in other parts of the town has been incredibly depressing and disappointing. It's surfaced again and again in the Stowe, sometimes in Bush Fair. And I think that is a real problem for residents, and I know I need to do more as an MP to try and help get these problems solved. And actually, I know that your Harlow regularly give me a hard time about police numbers, rightly so, and crime and these issues. So you've played a very important role in highlighting these issues.
Well, you're right, because it's that one thing, isn't it, that, we need more police in Harlow. It's a simple fact. You mentioned football. It's almost like people expecting a team to be in the Premiership with 5 players. As good as those 5 players are, they're never going to get the results. I guess that's the sort of where we come from.
And we are getting more police, which is a good thing. But there are a lot of reasons. It isn't just police. It's why are these children roaming the streets late at night? Younger people. Why are their kids on bicycles unsupervised? Where are their families? What on earth is going on? So real are they in school? Why are they not in school? A lot of them are doing this in the day and they're not in school. So there are a lot of very, very complex issues. But I absolutely accept the police number. And I'd like to. I constantly campaign for more special constables as well, because I think that's a part of the answer.
Do you how many general elections have you got left in you, Robert?
Well, that's a good question. It's pretty tough doing a general election. I think the of all the elections, the 2015 was probably the toughest one that I've done in all of them. The 2015 one. It's a huge honour to do this job. I'd like to do it again. We just have to wait and see. But at the moment, God willing, I'm still fit. It is the most amazing thing to be able to serve a community and get things done and achieve things and feel that you're part of something. Being an MP isn't a job; it's a vocation. It's a way of life. It's day and night, 7 days a week. But it's just you watch politics, you're part of politics, you're part of history, you're part of your community. You see history on the news on the TV and you realise that you're part of it. I've been very lucky to do it, and very lucky that, how many people can say at the age of 10 you want to do. I don't have political connections. I don't have any political connections in my family, but I've been able to do all this, and I've been very lucky.
Do you enjoy the combative nature of discourse, of argument, debate? When you get it, for example, say whether it's locally or nationally, the people, whether it's just people just the blanket evil Tories, or Robert Halfon says one thing in Harlow or Westminster, you never tend to go, oh, you're right. You tend to seem to quite relish the challenge of responding.
Yeah, I'm not naturally combative, but I like it when people debate the issues. I mean, they do, unfortunately, take stuff out of context and choose selective votes from opposition members or the Labour Party and say, well, I'll vote against this when it's a Labour Party motion, and very sort of select things taken out of context. But I'm so used to it now, and actually, what I have learnt is the nasty stuff on social media and the misrepresentation and the taking things out of context and the twisting of certain votes that I may have done or not done doesn't make the blindest bit of difference, because my opponents do it all the time and they don't seem to learn from it, because each election my vote share has gone up hugely in percentage terms, and now I'm not complacent. I work incredibly hard. I've got a majority of 14,000. No one would have ever imagined that, even myself, by the way. So I would say to my opponents, let's have vigorous debate about the issues. If you think I'm doing something wrong on the NHS, let's have a big, or whatever it may be, let's have a vigorous debate about it, but forget about the nastiness and the viciousness and the misrepresentation and using social media as a sewer rather than something to present an honest and open argument. Having said that, there are some very wonderful opposition people that I admire, local Labour people that I admire, who behave absolutely impeccably and just challenge me on the subject matter without resorting to vile stuff on social media or whatever it may be.
Finally, when I put this interview up, it will be on in our channels on headlines and politics, but it'll also be on history. And, as part of all the people we've interviewed about, history. And how would you like, in 30, 50, 100 years' time, How would you like history to judge you?
That is a good question. If in terms of Harlow, you mean?
Yeah.
Presumably. Yeah. So I would say that for all his, for whatever he got wrong, Robert Halfon loved Harlow, worked hard for Harlow, and fought for Harlow.